What do you want?
Want?
I'm Chase Collins. I have everything I could possibly want. What's what I need? More power.
Throughout time, there has been movie franchises that resonate so well with the audience that it garners a large following worldwide. Not only do they resonate with fans, but in time, they become classics, and movie studios nowadays tend to capitalize on the nostalgia by rebooting them or by continuing the franchise. This goes for TV shows as well. At the opposite end, there are some movies that had the potential to become known franchises, but sadly never did. The film we are looking at today, called The Covenant 2006, didn't become a global hit. It was forgotten, but it shouldn't be. Looking back at the movie, I gotta say that I miss the cool intros that the 2000 horror movies used to have. The creative openings got you excited if you were a horror fan in the 2000s. Meanwhile, if you were a casual viewer like me back then, this was a warning to brace yourselves, because the movie you were about to watch was about to take you on a one hell of a ride. I remember seeing the trailers for The Covenant, and I always thought that the main group of teens were vampires, but it turns out that they were wizards instead. The movie follows four teenage guys who are the descendants of the sons of Ipswich, who were five powerful families who settled in Massachusetts during the colonial era. These boys have inherited supernatural powers that have been passed down from generation to generation. But there was a catch. The more they use their powers, the more it drains their life force, causing them to age rapidly. As Caleb approaches his 18th birthday, he is set to ascend, meaning that his powers will grow even more stronger, and it was going to be much harder to control them. The group attended an elite school called Spencer Academy. When a student is found dead after a party, some hidden secrets threaten to shatter that has been protecting the boys' families for centuries. Remember that I mentioned that there are five powerful families? Well, the story goes that Colin's bloodline, the fifth family, was believed to have been wiped out centuries ago. The story goes that they were either exiled or destroyed due to their misuse of magic. Unlike the other families who try to control their powers, the Collins family supposedly abused theirs, leading to their downfall. However, the film revealed that the Collins bloodline had secretly survived through Chase Collins. Chase was someone who became friends with the Sons of Ipswich briefly until they figured out what Chase was really up to. Throughout the movie, the group was trying to figure out who from the four were using their powers to kill the innocent. It turns out that person was Chase Collins all along. He had already ascended and he gained immense power, but because he had overused his abilities, he needed more magic to sustain himself. Since Caleb was the strongest one from the group, he tried to force Caleb to ascend early so he can steal his power. The film's climax was Caleb and Chase fighting each other in a very awesome CGI battle. When I look back at it, this was still very impressive for its time. It kind of reminded me of how they filmed the movie 300. To be honest, it was very entertaining to watch back then, and it still kind of is today. Ultimately, Caleb defeated Chase by tapping into his ascended power. In the end, Caleb survives, but the dangers of using magic remain, leaving the story for a potential sequel that never happened. The group had multiple powers that were inherited through their bloodline. They had telekinetic powers where they can move objects with their minds, illusions and invisibility, including enhanced strength and durability, with energy blasts coming out of their hands as well. With these powers, they were nearly unstoppable, but with great power in this story comes an even greater weakness. One major reason I believe that the Covenant movie failed was because the characters were limited to how many times they can actually use their powers. Remember, each time they used their powers, they were going to start aging quick. If the group had unlimited use for their powers, then that would have been so awesome to see how far they can go on using their powers non-stop. One other reason why the Covenant didn't become a huge hit worldwide was because the movie was heavily criticized for its script and underdeveloped characters. I kinda do agree that you barely get any storyline from the other characters other than Caleb and Chase. Even for Caleb, who is the main protagonist we're supposed to be following, he doesn't get much story. We know he has a girlfriend, but their relationship wasn't really shown a lot on screen. Maybe if the Covenant was a TV show, then there might have been extra screen time for the story to continue. The movie has a low Rotten Tomatoes score, and many critics dismiss it as a generic supernatural thriller. At the time, supernatural horror was evolving with movies like The Descent 2005 and The Grudge 2004, offering depth, meaning that the Covenant was left out. The last major reason I can think of why the Covenant failed to become a well-known franchise worldwide was because it was overshadowed by Twilight. Yes, that Twilight. The book for Twilight was published around September 2005, and let me say that around this time, I kept seeing that book everywhere. The book cover with hands holding an apple became very familiar to everyone that read the book, and even to non-readers of the book. I swear this book was everywhere in every major retail store like Walmart and Target. When the film came out in 2008, more people started to get into the dark fantasy world of Twilight. As for me, I've only seen the first movie in the series, and I haven't seen any other movies in the franchise since. Not only was Twilight getting a lot of hype at the time, but the TV show True Blood came out right at the same time when Twilight was taking the world by storm. The Vampire Diaries took the reins for the vampire dark fantasy genre later. While Twilight was getting all the hype it deserved, the Covenant was completely forgotten by everyone. With that being said, The Covenant 2006 was an early 2000s supernatural film that never got the recognition it needed. The movie was a product of its time, but that's exactly why it deserves a second look. For those who remember it, or those who are discovering it for the first time, it is still a fun and entertaining film. It had an intriguing world and mythology that could have been explored in sequels or even a TV series. It had potential that in another timeline, maybe it could have been something much bigger.